All right, it's time for our second and final roundtable discussion, and that is titled "The Future is Now: Robotics and Additive Manufacturing." And we have another wonderful moderator, who is Kathleen Kennedy, who is president of the MIT Technology Review. And in her 15 years at MIT, Kathleen has helped MIT Technology Review to redefine the magazine's brand and to achieve success in a rapidly changing market. Kathleen, can I turn things over to you? Come on up to the stage.
Thank you very much.
I also mention she is dressed head to toe in Italian. Amazing, amazing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, I'm bringing a little MIT innovation to the room, and we're going to innovate the panel in real time and really try to amp up the energy in the room and move this quickly. So that's a little note to my panelists. So I'd like to invite everyone on stage: Arturo Baroncelli, my longtime friend, David Corsini, Giorgio Metta, and Sarah Webster. And Sarah, you've got a handheld there. Okay, guys, you want to grab a seat? So we're going to talk about robotics. And actually, there might be a technology that can fold your laundry and do a lot of other things. So we're going to talk about, with really in the frame of what we've been talking about today, narrowcast a bit on robotics and how they can assist and really improve manufacturing, thinking about new innovations, lessons learned, and how Italian innovations and companies can integrate into the scene here in the US. So, and we're going to do it fast. So, first of all, I want to go ahead and start with, so we have an academic, an editor, and two folks from industry, entrepreneur and large company. So let's start with the academic. Giorgio, tell me about what you see as the most interesting trends in robotics right now.
I think what is new is really that we're combining AI and robotics. I think this is what is happening. AI is becoming really working and outside, just the lab. I mean, we can now deliver applications that start to be working exceptionally well. And this is, I think, what is going to change the type of robots we're going to be able to deploy in the future.
Give us an example.
Object recognition from vision, that's working fantastically well now. It's not perfect, but in certain domains it's better than humans. And the same is true for a subset of speech recognition, for instance. That's also working exceptionally well. And again, then humans are better in general because they have this huge brain behind it and cognition and all different things. But like on the signal processing level, these systems are working well. And I think they will impact into robotics. And so also for manufacturing, this will be exceptionally powerful.
Okay, great. So the idea of humans and robots, we're going to come back to that point. That's an important one.
Is this on? Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I would say that acceptance of robots has reached a critical point in North America. We have had several consecutive years of record robotic sales in the United States. And I expect that every year going forward will be the case. And that's because the price of robots has come down. Programming has gotten easier. And even the smallest shops now, when you go in, they're having so much trouble finding workers that they need robots. And so there's a great acceptance of using robots. And that is, they can't build the robots fast enough. So the robotics industry, they track sales, but they also have to track deliveries very closely because they can't build them fast enough.
Awesome. David, at Telerobot Labs, you're harnessing technology to solve big problems. Why don't you give us an example of what you're doing?
More to solving a complex problem. We have to solve common problems with uncommon solutions. Because there are operations that man alone cannot perform, operations that cannot be done without, and operations that a machine alone cannot perform. So we joke to say that the industrial robot could be stupid for certain operation, and the advanced robot is too clever. So the integration of human capability with the deterministic capability of robots, it's the solution. That's why we call our vision, our job, the robotic human technology.
Awesome, David, thank you. And Arturo, what's the most interesting trend in robotics you're seeing today?
Well, I talk about industrial robotics, which is my specialty. So industrial robotics was born in 1961, when the first robot was installed in Trenton, New Jersey. The only breakthrough was 10 years later when electrical motors and substituted hydraulics. And then we had nothing really new. Mm-hmm. Now we are on the verge of a breakthrough. What is this breakthrough? It's cooperative robots. Mm-hmm. So robots that can work together with humans without cages around it. A lot of work is to be done because in this moment the robots are still small, the payload is low, they are slow, but the trend can be there since I see that more flexible system can be done using cooperative robots and robots together, each one bringing to the party what is doing best. So the robot, precise, fast operation, and human beings, the care, the intelligence, and doing this together.
Okay. I'm curious, in the room, how many in the room in what you do with your work involves robotics, robots? So about half the room actually has
Sergio should raise his hand.
So about half the room here actually in their work every day involves robotics. So we've got a smart crowd here. So thinking about then one of the big topics, and I would imagine these folks aren't worried about losing their jobs, but there is sort of, that's one of the big backlashes that we're hearing a lot about, is that robotics are taking away jobs. And the idea, is that true? First of all, I know, Arturo, you have a strong opinion about this. What is your...
The answer is no.
The answer is no. Unpack that a little bit.
Okay, I have several answers, but we don't have time. So first of all, there is an emotional effect about the word robots. If I call them reprogrammable automatic devices, would not be so sexy. And we would blame the robots exactly like we blame Mr. Gutenberg about having invented the printing machine. So there is an emotional bias about that. Second, in many, many technologies, most of them, the robot is not one technology, it's the technology. The technology. If I have to make cars, for that guy, I use robots in Colombia, United States, or China. If I have to move pieces, very strong pieces, neither Mike Tyson in his prime was able to manipulate 200 kilograms 24 hours a day. Mm-hmm. No person in the world is able to move 200 pieces per minute or to handle red hot pieces. So robotics is the technology for doing a lot of things. And there is no connection between the increase of robotics and the decrease of employment ever.
Great. Sarah, I know you have a position on this as well. Do you see that robotics is actually adding jobs in places?
So we are part of SME, which is a very large membership-based organization, and we did some extensive surveys around a lot of different kinds of manufacturing technologies, and we asked, is robots a job creator or a job killer? And 90% of our audience said it was a job creator. And that's because these people actually work in manufacturing and they see what's happening. And a robot may technically displace someone who's doing the same job, but ultimately that worker is needed somewhere else. We have such a dire situation in manufacturing, in most parts of manufacturing, in finding the right workers that ultimately jobs are added because people are more productive, or humans who have big brains, as you said, can go on and do some of the more important tasks that are maybe less repetitive. And there are plenty of tasks that we are unable to do, as was noted. And so robots ultimately will help us do more and be more productive.
Excellent. All right, so Giorgio, you introduced the concept of AI, and you're at the MIT of Italy, so I'm curious more about how do you see AI impacting manufacturing?
There's still a lot of common problems that we have to solve in robotics.
Yep.
Manipulation in one of those, unconstrained manipulation. So you see whatever random set of objects, you want to be able to manipulate them and do stuff with them. That's still tough. I mean, there's very specialized tools for certain jobs, but doing hands to actually do the job is still a difficult thing. That can be approached a bit with AI and sensors and combining the two together. That's one aspect. The other aspect is definitely being able to reconfigure robots that are entirely generic. I do humanoids, and it's crazy for manufacturing, but in the very far future, I will see very generic robots to be able to redeployed in any scenario, in any setting, depending on the size maybe. Mm-hmm. But in terms of structure of the body, it may be the same in different contexts. And that will add flexibility, because you can take the same robots and just retrain them for a new task. That's where AI will be effective, I believe.
Okay.
It will still take time. I mean, it's not, it's not there, but it's the way to go, I think.
Fantastic. David, you were telling me about a project that you're working on where it's actually making robots more human, or bringing in that human element and having them actually be able to learn, which is really interesting. Why don't you talk about that?
Yes, I would like to point out an important issue. Robotics is not only manufacturing, is not only automation. Let's guess all the challenge we have in environment, energy, as well as health. Let's guess to decommissioning of nuclear power plants. There is an incoming business of about 100 billion over the next 20 years in USA to reduce existing and old-fashioned nuclear power plant up to greenfield. Or even in the oil and gas industry. We are talking about oil at this moment. There are ongoing projects of about 100,000 miles in the world. And the challenge is to perform tasks that are unknown. Mm. How to solve the problem of shale gas, or well as deep sea interventions, or healthcare, about rehab, as well as robotic surgery. And the solution cannot be to try to force all the intelligences necessary to put inside a machine. It's too expensive, it's too difficult, it's too far from now. So adding the human intelligence together with steady technology could be a solution. Humans are underrated in a tech-centered vision.
Humans are underrated. Okay, so that's a very interesting point. Giorgio, what about then bio-inspired robotics?
That's basically what we do in general. What do you want to know about bio-inspired robotics?
Well, I'd say that, let's see. So we were at the table, and I can't remember, perhaps you weren't there. We had a really interesting discussion over lunch about octopuses, and how thinking about that different things in nature, in the way that they move and operate, can inspire how robots do it, not just that people aren't perfect.
What I see that may be happening, and we betting a bit on it, at IT especially, is developing new materials for robotics. The more complicated robots are fragile. I mean, we may envision these scenarios where robots are taking over, but this is not going to happen. I mean, the robots are generically not too strong. And the more complicated they are, the weaker they are. anything that can go wrong. Materials can solve a lot of problems in interacting with the environment, being flexible, have new actuators, new sensors for touch, contact. So all these can be bio-inspired. The octopus is a good example, but there are tons of solutions that are inspired by nature. But even the very algorithm that we're developing for AI quite often are inspired by brain science, by neuroscience. So kind of look at how the brain is solving a certain problem. We try to copy in software the mechanisms, not necessarily the neural networks, but it can be just copying the overall mechanism.
Sure. Well, we write about neural networks a lot. I think there's interesting stuff there. Sarah, are you seeing things? I know you write about things that tend to be sort of more in the market. Are you seeing some things that have been bio-inspired that have been injected into the market successfully?
I think that designs are often inspired by nature. I'm thinking suddenly of a solar cell that I know that the University of Michigan was working on that sort of shaped more like an organic leaf or something like that to capture the sun, which is what a leaf does also, like a solar panel. That's very common across manufacturing, and we see people sort of recognizing it more and deliberately as a nod using those kinds of studies of nature to develop their products.
Fantastic. Okay, so today we're here thinking about the relationship between U.S. and Italy. And so I'm curious, Arturo, let's start with you on how are Italian and U.S. companies already working together? And obviously we know that, but how can we improve upon that model?
Difficult for me to talk about my company because we are in the United States since 1999 and we have more than 1,000 people here. Mr. Marchione has someone more. So we are in a deep state of cooperation with America. But I'm in the business since more than 30 years now, and I know very well the Italian company. They have a specific feature. They don't see only one way to solve the problems, but they are curious. And they see in 2 ways, or 3 ways, and they solve the problem. The big opportunity, the big challenge, and our friend of Italian trade can help us, is to bring this peculiar capacity of the Italians of having special, winning solution to the States. We must help this for the fabric of Italy because it's little and medium-sized company, and we have to do it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And I know, David, you feel strongly about this one too. What are the barriers that you're seeing about better collaboration?
No particular barrier on the collaboration. I can see the kind of barrier for a small company like mine. That the size of the market, our size and the size of the market. We are deeply involved into the Italian nuclear decommissioning program, and we have only one customer, 4 nuclear power plants, and the sites. The dream will be to have a more strong critical mass, and to come here in USA, that is the widest market in the world. That is a challenging market in which we would like to move here, the Made in Italy, to merge with other relevant companies in USA, just to create a strong robotic service company that at the moment doesn't exist. They are a big player. Just to give you an example, Arturo Baroncelli could represent large-scale manufacturer like FCA, and Professor Giorgio could represent the advanced R&D of Ferrari racing team, Formula One. Well, we would like to be the Ferrari, the makers. A bridge between high technology and current industry.
So that's a very nice vision. You guys should work on that. All right, so we are between these people and Mark, and then Mark is between these people and the Italian wine. So we are going to do a closing lightning round. You each get 30 seconds. Imagine that we've made tremendous progress, and we're back here in 5 years. What are we going to be talking about? Giorgio.
In 10 seconds, a robot in every home.
A robot in every home. And what is that? What are those
humanoid
robots doing?
robot.
Folding laundry.
Folding laundry, personal assistant. Mostly because I think that that's a super huge market in numbers, at least. And that's where will force people to be a bit more concrete, also from academia, to develop for applications and try to deploy them. We see these at IIT a bit, although we're doing research, we also like to connect to industry. And for the type of robotics that we do, that's potential market. We do other stuff. I mean, we do also robots for disaster recovery, surgery. I mean, there are different robotics group at IIT, but I think this one is interesting because of the size, the potential size of the market. One possibility is that once we develop these skills for these robots, they will also be able to help in manufacturing. Because, I mean, the manipulation is going to be the same. I mean, maybe the structure of the robot can be slightly different, but in terms of the skills that the robot needs to have to interact with people naturally, to work in an unstructured environment, and to be able to do manipulation in this unstructured environment, I mean, I think they're the same skills that you can deploy to manufacturing eventually.
So that's a massive market. If you think about a robot in every home, we need about 5 million robots manufactured. All right, excellent. Next.
They can't make them fast enough.
They can't make them fast enough. Well, we've got the right people in the room here.
I would say that in 5 years, I expect the North American manufacturing sector to be totally wired, connected digitally, and for there to be transparency from OEMs, the big companies like Chrysler and Boeing, all the way through their supply chain to the lowest common supplier. I think the flow of data flowing from machines, from sensors, from tooling, I think that data is all going to be shared throughout the supply chain, and that it's going to transform manufacturing. And I think that the integration, which I know is one of our eye points today, is going to be critical to making that happen, and that it will transform the whole sector. We're looking at an industrial Internet of Things, and really it's the holy grail of the Internet of Things, because it's, you know, the area or the sector that has the most capability to transform all the things that we use every day. All the way back to our plane giving feedback to a factory about a metal part that's maybe wearing out too quickly.
Excellent, Sarah. Thank you. David, what's your vision for 5 years from now?
After having merged some Italian high-tech excellencies, merged with other American high-tech excellencies, and I should be very glad to present the apple of robotics.
The apple of robotics. All right. Love it. Arturo, final word.
Okay, using the experiences of Giorgio or MIT, so the big guys in research, a big step in the use of, once again, cooperative robots, exoskeleton, and so technologies coming from service robot into industrial robot, and having so an improvement of performances and use of robots in general in industry.
Fantastic, thank you. So you heard it here first. The apple of robotics, the industrial internet is going to become completely real, and we are going to have a robot in every home. So thank you very much. I hope you learned something today.